The gym was my usual escape. Not to get fit or anything, though that'd be nice. I liked the routine, the mindlessness of running nowhere on the treadmill. But lately, even that was boring. My husband, Dave. I don't know, he was fine. We just didn't, well, spark anymore. Nothing bad, just comfortable, I guess. Like those old slippers you keep wearing even though they're worn and a bit smelly. Then he walked in. New guy, built like those guys in the firefighter calendars. Caught my eye right away, and I guess it showed because he grinned back when I bumped into him by the water cooler. Felt like a schoolgirl, giggling with him while I filled my bottle. After that, the gym wasn't boring anymore. Suddenly, I cared about my workout clothes. We'd, accidentally, end up on machines next to each other. Nothing serious, just joking around, little touches when helping with weights. Harmless stuff, right? But it made my heart thump in a way it hadn't in ages. His eyes on me felt hotter than any sauna. One day, he caught me leaving. Coffee? He asked. Seemed innocent enough. Over those tiny styrofoam cups, we actually talked, not gym stuff. Turned out he was funny, a little lost in town like me. When he touched my hand, I knew I was in trouble. Way more trouble than just a crush. I'd tell myself to pull away, but that spark, it felt so good. He started waiting by my car. Planned run-ins at the machines got more intense. My head was spinning. Was I imagining those hungry looks, or did he feel it too? Telling myself it was just a bit of fun kept the guilt at bay. It couldn't be real cheating if it wasn't. Well, if it didn't go all the way. Could it? Each stolen glance, every shared laugh, it was building to something risky. But even when my mind screamed, stop, my body wouldn't listen. I was hooked on a feeling Dave hadn't given me in years, and even knowing it was wrong, stopping didn't feel like an option. Part of me knew this was a train wreck waiting to happen, the other part, well, that part just wanted the ride. That coffee changed everything. Gym guy, Steve, turned out to be way more than a workout buddy. Funny, smart. Hell, he made me feel alive in a way I'd kinda forgotten about. While we sipped that terrible latte, it was like I was on a date again, giddy and nervous. He didn't pry too much about Dave. Just a casual, so, been married long? The answer rolled out before I thought better of it, long enough to get boring. His eyes lit up, and maybe mine did too. There was an understanding there, a shared itch for something more. Suddenly, getting to the gym every day was about a whole lot more than burning calories. He made sure we were always near each other. Help adjust this? He'd ask, voice low so only I could hear. Those quick touches, our knees brushing under a table. Lord, it was stupid schoolyard stuff, but it set me on fire. I found myself inventing reasons to stay longer. Forgotten water bottle, needing to stretch. All just excuses to be near him. The guilt twisted inside me at first. This is nothing, I'd tell myself. I'm not doing anything. But those fleeting moments with Steve started filling my head. I couldn't focus on work, on Dave, on anything but planning my next gym escape. I even found myself dressing a little nicer on gym days, hating myself for it, but excited at the same time. One night, after a particularly charged workout, Steve caught me at the door. Drinks? He offered, so casual, like it was barely even a question. That should have set alarms ringing. Instead, the thrill of it, the danger, made my yes tumble out way too quickly. Lying to Dave about a work thing felt way easier than I ever expected. It scared me a little, but if I'm being honest, that scared me kinda hot too. The wrongness of it all, it was turning into a drug. Those first drinks. That was like crossing a line I couldn't uncross. It shifted things with Steve. After that, there was no more pretending it was just workout buddies catching up. Our talks got deeper, bolder. We shared our gripes about work, about marriage. Those little confessions, they became fuel, made the connection burn stronger. That guilt in my gut? It got drowned out by the rush of feeling wanted, feeling seen in a way I hadn't been in forever. Pretty soon, it was more than just drinks after the gym. There were lunches grabbed between meetings, stolen hours when I was supposed to be running errands. Lying came easier each time. Work's insane became my go-to, followed by a quick eye roll to Steve as if we shared some special joke. At home, Dave seemed further away every day. It was like the more I lied, the less I saw him, the less he registered at all. He didn't deserve this, but then again, would he even notice? That was the worst part. I started hoping he wouldn't. Steve, well, he noticed everything. My new haircut, the way I touched my lips when I was nervous. The compliments got bolder, and so did I. It moved from coffee shops to his car parked in quiet corners, the stolen glances turning into stolen kisses. We started texting constantly, dumb-coded stuff, like I was a lovesick teenager again. At first, it was silly emojis, later it wasn't so innocent. We got burner phones. Suddenly, being sneaky wasn't just thrilling, it was necessary. My life turned into this weird compartmentalized mess. 1 minute, I'm soccer mom, texting about bake sales. The next I'm sending Steve pictures I shouldn't. The shame and the excitement were at war inside me, but excitement was winning by a landslide. The lie I told Dave to get away for that weekend was one of my best. Some kind of made-up work conference thing, complete with a fake itinerary. He barely even looked at it, just kissed my cheek and said, "Have fun, babe." Did he not care, or was I just that good at making him think everything was normal? Maybe a part of me wanted him to care enough to stop me. The hotel was ridiculous. Lush carpets, giant bed, fancy chocolates on the pillows, and all of it paid for with money meant for our mortgage. Steve was waiting for me, that same grin, that promise of trouble I craved like a junkie. We fell into each other, and the world just went away. It wasn't just sex, though that was mind-blowing. It was talking for hours without having to pretend. Letting my guard down, complaining about Dave, about my whole stupid, boring life. Steve listened, got angry for me, made me feel like my choices were justified somehow. That maybe, this wasn't just a fling, this was an escape route. Being with him, it was like I wasn't just cheating. I was getting a glimpse of a different life. A life where I wasn't a wife, a mom. Just a woman who came first, a woman who mattered. But even in that fancy bubble, reality bled through. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, sure Dave would be standing right there, proof of my betrayal in his hands. We'd leave the hotel separately, taking different routes home like we were in some low-budget spy movie. I flinched every time my phone buzzed, terrified of a random call or text from Dave blowing my whole world apart. Guilt was a constant hum under the surface, but it was drowned out by the desperate need to keep the high going just a little bit longer. Coming back down to earth was brutal. The scent of Steve on my skin, his stupid hair gel on my pillow. Dave gave me a hug when I walked in, so normal, so damn oblivious. The lie tasted like acid in my mouth. I wanted to scream, to confess, to run away and disappear. But then what? Back to Dave, begging for forgiveness he maybe didn't deserve? To Steve, who had his own comfy life to go back to. I was trapped, and there was no escape. Not from my lies, not from my guilt, not from any of it. After that weekend, I wasn't the same person. Every time Dave glanced at me, my skin crawled with the certainty that he knew, that he was gonna blow everything wide open. I jumped at every text, my heart leaping into my throat. Was it him asking where that missing earring was? Or Steve with some stupid inside joke I couldn't delete fast enough? Work became impossible. I couldn't focus, kept imagining my boss finding out, firing me, the gossip. Oh God, the gossip. Everyone would know I was that woman, the cliché, the pathetic cheater. Sleeping was a nightmare, waking up in a cold sweat from dreams where everything came crashing down. Meanwhile, Steve was the opposite. He was energized, emboldened. One day, a stupid keychain with my name on it showed up in the mail. No address, nothing. Just a heart and his initial. I threw it in a trash can down the street, but the damage was done. The panic bubbled over. This wasn't just little flings anymore, he was getting cocky. You have to choose, he said one night when I was venting about the stress. Just like that, no understanding of my fear, of what a choice like that even meant. Choose what? I snapped back, but we both knew what he was talking about. I couldn't pretend it was a fling anymore. Not while staring at that stupid heart keychain he was sure to ask about. And Dave. Dave was so present, so trusting. Each of their interactions felt like a time bomb ticking closer to detonation. That's when the fights with Steve started. Nothing big, just snipes at each other when we were alone. Him accusing me of being weak, me hissing about his recklessness. The magic we had. It was souring, turning ugly. I saw a different side of him, A selfish one that was only concerned about his stupid fantasy of us running away together. My fantasy had been blowing up this whole mess and walking away unscathed, not becoming the wife who tears her family apart. Steve didn't get that, or didn't care. And I, the woman who was always so damn careful, so good at hiding things, was starting to crack at the seams. That fight with Steve lingered. We stopped talking for a few days. It should have been a relief, but the silence was worse. When your whole life revolves around sneaking around, the quiet is unbearable. My own thoughts were a minefield. What the hell was I doing? Was I ready to become that woman who ruins her family for a fling? Desperation made me stupid. I started acting like that sitcom wife, cooking Dave's favorite meals, wearing the perfume he liked, even trying to get frisky with him. It was pathetic. Each touch felt slimy, and he was so clueless, actually happy. It made me sick. Meanwhile, messages started piling up on my burner phone. Steve, begging for forgiveness, promising to change, whatever. Back and forth, back and forth. My mind was a hamster wheel I couldn't get off. I missed the way Steve made me feel, the stupid escape of it all. But the image of myself destroying everything I'd built with Dave, it chased me everywhere. I wasn't sleeping, barely eating. I started snapping at my kid, making her cry over stupid stuff. At work, I messed up a presentation, got a talking to by my boss. I was unraveling, and everyone could see it. Then, the bomb dropped. "We need to talk," Steve said one night, and his tone was serious. My stomach knotted up. Was this it? Was he leaving me? Instead, he had a solution. "Leave him," he said, so matter of fact. Like it was buying milk instead of blowing up my world. "We move away, new city, new start. I know a guy, can get us new ids, everything." Part of me knew how insane this was. Yet, another part. A part one was disgusted by, was intrigued. Could I do it? Fake my own death, or some crap like that, and vanish with Steve? Just walk away from my whole life and be someone new, without this crushing weight of guilt and fear? It was exhilarating and sickening at the same time. Those thoughts swirled inside me, infecting every choice I made from then on. The second I seriously considered Steve's plan, something inside me snapped. A little switch got flipped, and I wasn't just some cheating wife anymore. I was calculating, cold. Maybe the craziness was always there, lurking under the surface, waiting for its moment. Leaving Dave on my own terms wasn't enough. He needed to be the bad guy. That's how I kept justifying it to myself. This mess, all of it, was his fault for being comfortable, for not seeing me, for not pushing me to the edge where I'd jump off with some random gym rat. I got meticulous. Started leaving bruises on myself where they could be seen, but not too obviously. I practiced looking scared, eyes wide, practicing shaking and crying on cue. It was a chilling kind of skill to discover in myself. During fights, ones I'd subtly instigate, I'd make little comments. "What are you going to do? Hit me," taunting him. Dave was always confused, horrified, the perfect bewildered victim. Then, the main event. We were at Jenny's house, a close friend of mine. During a fight I staged, loud enough for her to overhear, I dialed her on my burner. Whispered, "Please help, he's going to hurt me," and then clicked it off fast, but not before letting out a pained yelp. I knew Jenny. She wouldn't hesitate. The cops came, lights flashing. I did my act, cowering behind Jenny, while Dave stood there, stunned and speechless. They took one look, disheveled me, calmed him, and hauled him away. Jenny held me while I sobbed, completely fake, but she bought it. Later that night, I lay awake next to Steve, the sounds of Dave alone in some cell echoing in my head. There was no guilt, no sadness. Just a dull thrum of victory mixed with a terrifying kind of emptiness. What kind of monster had I become? But hey, monster or not, at least now I had a way out. Dave's arrest gave me this twisted sense of power. Gone was the scared, desperate woman. I was running the show now. Steve was my willing puppet. I moved out the next day, big dramatic show of packing a single suitcase as if I was escaping for my life. Jenny helped, shooting Dave disgusted looks that gave me a perverse thrill. I told Steve we could finally be together, no more sneaking. He showed up at the temporary place I was staying, this stupid grin on his face. Like this was some big romantic adventure, not the result of my carefully laid plans. "We did it, babe," he said, grabbing me in a hug that was too tight. Now it's just you and me. I pulled away, the fake smile starting to crack a little at the edges. Not so fast. Gotta tie up some loose ends first. Like what? He asked, a bit confused. Before he could say another word, I heard sirens. My heart stuttered, then raced. Was this it? Was karma finally arriving to kick my ass? Instead of panicked, though, I felt strangely calm. Steve followed my gaze to the flashing lights outside. His grin faded, replaced by pure terror. What the hell? Was all he got out before I flung open the door. The cops weren't there for me. They were there for him. Turned out, a concerned citizen had called in an anonymous tip about Steve harassing a woman. They checked his record, found some old restraining order, some parole violation I'd sweetly convinced him to forget telling me about. He tried to run, but it was useless. In minutes, he was cuffed and cursing my name. I watched them drag him away, a hollow feeling inside. No satisfaction, no guilt, just nothing. Turns out, getting everything you think you want can leave you feeling colder than ever. And while I played my part, even feigning a few tears when they questioned me about the abuse, all I could think was, what comes next? Where does a woman who's destroyed everything she's ever had even go from here? Turns out, rock bottom looks a lot like a cheap motel room. That's where I was stuck, watching trashy daytime TV and trying not to imagine Dave in a jail cell. After Steve's arrest, everything spiraled fast. News got out about my abuse, and while folks mostly looked at me with pity, I saw the whispers behind my back. Soccer mom turned town tramp, all in the space of a few weeks. My escape with Steve had lasted all of 2 days before everything went to hell. He wasn't some love-struck savior, he was scared and angry. The second the cops mentioned that restraining order, he flipped. You set me up, he screamed, spit flying in my face. You crazy B*TCH, you knew this would happen. Turns out, passion is overrated when you're facing jail time. He ratted me out faster than you can blink. Told them everything. The burner phones, my coaching him to fake fights, the lot. Then, to my shock, he claimed I'd done the same to Dave, made up abuse allegations to get him locked away. It was a desperate play, but the cops had to take it seriously. Suddenly, I was the one in handcuffs. They dragged me out of that motel room like I was some hardened criminal, news cameras flashing in my face. I couldn't meet anyone's eyes, not the cops, not the reporters. I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror anymore. In the interrogation room, they grilled me for hours. Everything I said, every lie I'd ever told, was twisted and thrown back at me. The worst part wasn't being called names. It wasn't the fear of prison. It was seeing the flicker of disgust in the detective's eyes. She wasn't just doing her job. She believed I was the kind of woman who could do this, to her own husband, to some guy dumb enough to fall for it. She wasn't wrong. But damn, that look. It cut deeper than any jail sentence ever could. The trial was a blur. Lawyers, legal words I didn't understand, a whole parade of people I'd lied to and betrayed testifying against me. Jenny stared daggers through me. My kid wouldn't even look my way. Dave was there too, his face a mask. I searched for anger, hate, anything. But there was just this tired sadness that shattered me more than any screaming match could have. The verdict wasn't a surprise. Guilty on all counts. The judge's words barely registered over the buzzing in my ears. Prison. I'd be in prison with real criminals, women who did way worse things than ruin their dumb marriages. But still, they'd never looked down on me the way those people in the courtroom did. That first night in a cell, that was the loneliest I'd ever felt. Not because of the hard bed or the noise. My freedom was gone, my family shattered, all of it my own damn fault. Every stupid decision, every thrill-seeking lie. They all added up to this cold, unforgiving place. Time passed in a haze of routine and regret. Letters from my lawyer were the only connection to the outside, divorce papers from Dave, news articles painting me as some suburban monster. Each word was a fresh stab. I tried to apologize, to explain, but the letters never got sent. What was there even to say? Then, the visit that changed everything. Or maybe, nothing. Dave, in that plain visitor's room, looking older than I remembered. It wasn't the hate I expected, though I deserved it. No, it was pity. I couldn't even blame him. The kid. She's doing okay, he said, stilted, like he didn't want to be there. She misses you. I miss her too, I choked out, the tears finally coming. I wanted to beg, to plead for forgiveness, for a second chance. Instead, all I could muster was, I'm so sorry, Dave. I'm so sorry. He just nodded, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. Before he left, he said one last thing, don't bother writing back. I won't bring the letters. That was it, my lifeline to the world I'd wrecked was gone. And as much as it hurt, I knew he was right. There were no more words, no more excuses I could offer. All that was left was for me to face the consequences, to live inside the mess